Good morning, good afternoon, good evening as you're watching this on demand, or you might be watching us live. Welcome to today's webinar where we're talking about how much can you afford to lose. This is part 2 of our 3-part series about risk. Last time we spoke around understanding what data you have. So you might assume, quite correctly, that how much you can afford to lose is how much data you can afford to lose. Let's dive into it. And there's been a fire at your office. This is what it now looks like. What do you do? What have you lost? And how quickly can you recover? These are the questions we're going to be asking today. And to do that, we've got two key acronyms here, which are going to be important because your answers to these govern how quickly you'll recover and how much you'll lose. So we've got the recovery point objective. This is a really hard figure. And I don't mean difficult. I mean this is one that is very set. This is how much you are willing to lose. This is effectively how often you back up your data. So if your recovery point objective is a day, you are willing to lose up to a day's worth of data. If your recovery point objective is 10 minutes, you're willing to only lose 10 minutes. Makes sense? And you can see how that is a hard figure. You are dictating how much you are willing to lose with a set amount, because you know at minimum that is what will be lost. Then we have the recovery time objective. This is how quickly you want to be able to recover into a functional state, and this figure needs to be realistic and it's going to depend on your circumstances. How can we plan for the recovery time objective? If you need instant recovery, be prepared to spend quite a lot. You'll need to have a hot site with full replication of all your data and everything you need for your business to operate. That staff can be quickly sent there to work with minimal disruption. This is not practical for most. Instead, you might plan for working from home, restoring servers into the cloud, and focusing on your core business functions. These, of course, are looking at major disasters such as that fire. A different disaster could be a disgruntled ex-employee who does damage on their way out the door by deleting files and sabotaging systems. This should have a shorter recovery time objective, as hopefully that is largely just restoring files. And you can influence that speed with things like local backup storage rather than having to rely on downloading all your backups files from over the internet. Now here's something to think about. All the while you're in this state, you're not a fully functioning business. How much does that cost? The answer to how much you can afford to lose is not just the simple number as the amount of data you may lose. It's the productivity hit, the disruption, and if it is serious, the reputation damage which grows as the clock ticks. A while back in the news, there were law firms involved with the buying and selling of property who had collective IT issues with a provider having a cyber attack. They were disrupted for weeks, as you can see by the 2 dates on these news articles. That effect knocks onto their clients, the people buying and selling their properties. This is an example of a supply chain risk, one that you can't directly control except by changing supplier. In our last webinar, we were talking about completing a data audit so that you have an understanding of the data you have, where it's actually stored. We can take that audit and start setting out a few further columns as we look at our recovery point and our recovery plans. So for each piece of data you identified in the audit, how much data can you afford to lose for that? What does your recovery point objective need to be? Does it need to be backed up every 15 minutes, 4 hours, once a day? Some of these you will not be able to control and are reliant on the provider for cloud software, for example. They're doing the backups for you, and you'll want to check with them how often they do back up, and if they're granular backups allowing individual bits of data to be restored on request, or if it's everything in one lump that there is little control of. Now, for the recovery time, our recovery plan needs to cover different situations. For example, you're going to have different priorities. If you lost your office space, then having somewhere to work is going to be higher priority than restoring the data to a new server. What is the point of having a restored server that has nowhere to go? Of course, these can happen with concurrency. It isn't a flatline plan. Your IT company could be working on the replacement server, getting data restored, while you're signing new temporary offices to move your team into, and everything involved with getting that office up and running. Having plans for different situations ready to enact will help speed up the recovery time. And most importantly, having copies of these plans easily accessible, not saved on the server that's now offline. You need paper copies with the key people and keep them updated as things change. An out-of-date plan is not helpful for a timely recovery. Review if any changes are needed to your plans in your business rhythm, such as your quarterly planning. So, with more of a plan, how much are you now going to lose from this fire? Hopefully less than before. But remember to get it into action and do run tabletop exercises to practice and refine your plans that you can actually follow them through if you ever need to enact them. An idea or a scribble is not really going to help you when there's so much going on. Having step by step written down key contact details with all the people involved will make it a far smoother and far easier experience. And now that you are thinking about the recovery, how about the defences to protect your business, limiting the damage and mitigating the risks? Join us next month for part 3 on the 24th of May, where we are looking at that exact bit and asking that question, how good is your castle? You might be a little bit surprised about how we actually show you this castle. And on the 21st of June, we are holding an in-person workshop in Gloucester, bringing the webinar topics together into a plan and arming you to responding with precision in an emergency or disaster. Tickets are now available on Eventbrite, and if you scan this QR code or go to this web address, you'll be able to get more details. I've been John from Westway IT. I hope you found this useful, and I'll see you again next month, or even better, see you at the workshop. Have a good day.